Chill! Weather? You already have a set number of brain cells that can't go up.
It can only go down. That's why I only have 2.
Hey guys! Welcome to the channel. Time to get out my stationery and make another month's worth of bullet journal spreads. So let's get into it. The theme this month is pretty in line with October, which is usually associated with Halloween. So I wanted to go for a magic potion witch/wizard aesthetic. I've been pretty obsessed with fantasy and more of the magic wielding characters. In D&D, my first character is actually a sorcerer, and a lot of people say my obsession with the aesthetic of the moon is pretty in line with that general vibe. I think that having it in dark colors would be a little too common and would actually look a lot more like my April space spread, so I'm still going off of the theme, but I want it to be more of a whimsical wizard look, focusing more on cool tones and a less spooky look just to set it apart. Kinda like a cartoon witch then creepy witch in the woods, or as my sister would call it, the light mode of the space spreads. For the cover, I already knew I was going to feature a cauldron somewhere. It's such a staple and it just had to be there. But the main decision I had to go through was whether to make it look like a room with potions in it or something a little more fun. I'm already using the room concept for my wallpaper, so fun it is. This cover is basically going to be the random ingredients used to make a me potion, so it's just going to be a collection of different doodles based on my personality, and knowing me, it's just going to have a bunch of references. The first one I colored in is Yotsuba's headband from Quintessential Quintuplets. She's my favorite quint, and I added the headband as a representation of slightly airheaded, too much caffeine, chaotic energy. I color in some parts of the other drawings that I already decided the colors for. The red bottle on the right is generally just spice or spicy in general. I just thought it would fit since I'm a pretty hot-headed person and I also like spicy food. On top of that is a green lantern ring. To help me prep for the spread, I actually asked a few of my friends for suggestions for ingredients and some notable traits of mine. One of the suggestions was willpower, so what better to have than a green lantern ring? You might be wondering why there's just random ice cream down there. That's just supposed to be my love of sweets, and specifically ice cream. The bottle with the moon and the stars is like potion of night. I thought it would be the best way to combine my love of moon imagery and my night owlness. Next is a cat that I drew being picked up by its neck. This is Chomusuke from Konosuba, if some of you missed the reference. I've had a bunch of people say that I act like a cat sometimes, so that's there. And also because Megumin is one of my favorite anime characters, but I have no idea how the character herself can be in the spreads. She has that funny, edgy Chunibyo energy that some people say that I have, and I kind of wanted to add something Megumin-like, so Chomusuke is the best option. To add a reference to the game I play the most, I have some Minecraft Creeper essence, because I'm clingy and explosive. Not exactly like explosive in just the anger way, it's just that I feel all my feelings very strongly, so I tend to have like a mini emotion explosion at times. Above that is what I call the chatterbox, so of course, because I love to talk, I can keep talking and talking and talking and still have enough of a voice for the next day. I took a quick rest from coloring in the doodles and went to trace a bunch of the ones I colored in already. After that, I start outlining the salt shaker because obviously I have a lot of salt, and since salt is white and the shaker is supposed to be glass, I didn't have to color much of it. And one of the last ones that isn't fully colored in is Sukuna or Sukuna's finger. Left this until the end because it's the hardest one to sketch out in color. Why do I have it? Well, number 1, because anime. Number 2, since it's also a reference to my setup of my bullet journal. And number 3, because in Jujutsu Kaisen, their power system is based on cursed energy. And Sukuna has a lot of cursed energy. And some would say I also have a lot of cursed energy, just in a really different way. When I don't pay attention to what I'm saying, I can say very cursed things. So I just thought it would be the best thing to have there. That's all of the ingredients, so I start on the cauldron. I use a light purple pen to make the bubbles on the potion part before I color it in. Then I color the rest of the potion part with my purple mild liner. I use the same color to make some evaporation lines and steam. I thought that coloring in the cauldron handles with a gold colored pencil would be enough, but it just didn't have the impact that I needed, so back to my favorite gold acrylic paint. I go across the entire spread painting the handles and then the month label, which I sketched out off camera. I tried to keep it as flat as possible by keeping it with thin layers of the gold paint and mixing the paint with just the right amount of water to keep it flowy but not to over-soak the paper and make it warp. I just keep adding layers of paint until I was happy with the opacity. Next, I color in the rest of the cauldron. I try to keep the lines of the marker more directional based on the shape of the cauldron. To make it easier, I also trace around the letters already to prevent accidental passes over them. Then it's just filling in the rest of the cauldron with color. It was missing something, so I also added a bunch of sparkles around the items to make the magic pretty obvious. To clean up the edges, I added some gold glitter pen around the painted handles. Now let's move on to the monthly. For those of you who are new around here, I am very much a creature of habit. I like having set ways of doing things so I can ensure maximum efficiency by making sure I don't have to think about the new things that I need to add. So this is basically my general look for a monthly. I already pre-sketched my calendar and colored in the month label with the same color as the potion on the cover, and it's also the same font as the gold version on the front. I add this teal washi tape to serve as the header for the calendar, then I trim the edges to make it fit nicely. To stay in the cool tones color scheme, the calendar is outlined with my light blue vintage pen, then the numbers were written in light green vintage pen since the middle ground would be the teal washi tape on top. I outlined the main title with the same pen I used to make the boiling bubbles. It's just to clean up the possibly rough edges when I colored it in. It's also been some time since it was colored, so the pen ink shouldn't bleed too much. By this point in time, I already got a full list of my subjects, so I go and add those colors that I already assigned for them. This is one of the most important times to have this color code since I'm just starting the SEM. By around November, I should be used to the colors. But it's about early September when I'm making these, so the colors for the subjects are entirely new. To take up space and add some decoration, I wanted to have some magic adjacent items since I'll be focusing more on potion bottles for the rest of the pages. The first thing I make is a candle. It's basically just a cylinder with a darker circle on top for the wax pool and drips on the side. There's a really big space on the bottom of the color code, so I use that to make a staff with a gem in it. I start by drawing the handle, then the gem's gonna go on top. Then I figure out how the gem is going to be attached to the rest of the staff, which I decided was gonna be like a setting for a diamond ring with some grabber-like things holding it in place. The handle is brown for a wooden handle, then there's gold, or just yellow for the grabber things, then a dark pinkish red for the gem, since a bright red wouldn't really go with the current color scheme. I also outlined the grabber things with the same glitter metallic pen as the handles from the cover, then some magical sparkles around the staff. The last main doodle is a potion bottle. I tried getting a potion bottle that would look different from the other ones I'm going to have, so I make it like a 3/4 look. It's also a lot more detailed than the other potions coming up, so it can be set apart. It was really close to the purple lettering, so I didn't want to color it purple, so I went with a green gemstone looking cork, then a blue potion, since pink was already the first part of the color code that's already in the gem too. I just had to use a lighter shade so it would look different from the candle when they're on the same general row. Then I just fill up the empty spaces with some magical sparkles, and that's basically it for the monthly. The weekly is just my normal timed weekly spread. Nothing really new there. I already started class and that's gonna go until January, so I really need these types of spreads. The main colors of the spread are green, blue, purple, and a dark gray to offset the pastels. So the small month reference in the corner is based off those. Green labels, purple calendar, and blue highlights. And the dark gray as the watch tracker and notes box to keep it balanced. The time labels are just done by alternating blue and pink vintage pens so that won't look too repetitive and monotonous. But for the rest of the spreads, I actually alternate different colors. My usual issue with designing these weeklies is just the limited space I have to theme the spread to what I need. I know that I need this specific spread so I can best do my work, but I also want to make it match for my own sense of aesthetic and order. So for this one, I thought the best thing to do was make potion bottles and just use that to label the days of the month. So I make templates for those by doing the mirror fold in half technique and just cutting out different shapes. I only make 7 designs and shuffle them around. While I trace those onto the page and make the other spreads, it's time for my usual life update / story time. So yeah, I've started class already. By the time I'm writing this script, I just finished my first full week of class. I'm actually only taking 12 units this sem, which is the university minimum for normal load. I've been able to handle 18 units even before the pandemic, but this is my first sem in my new course, so I just wanted to give myself time to adjust. Since it's already ironed out and finalized, my new course is officially BA Speech Communication. Right now, I'm actually a SEM advanced compared to the freshmen since I've already taken all the GEs required, so I have 2 speech majors I'm taking right now, Speech 100 and Speech 115. Each subject is 3 units, so that's 3 hours of lecture a week, technically. The other 2 subjects are English 23 and Psych 150. English 23, which I actually call ENG 23, is an introduction to Shakespeare class. As part of the speech comm curriculum, I'm required to take something called a survey literature class. There were 4 options. 3 were in Filipino and 1 was in English. I honestly have a hard enough time reading in English, and I don't even want to factor how much time I'll need to read Filipino literature. Good thing I managed to get ENG 23 during the subject lottery. Then my last class for the sem is Psych 150, which is Theories of Personality, and I'm taking it as an elective. I already took Psych 101 about 2 years ago, so I already have all the prereqs to take higher psych subjects. I wanted to shift to Psych 2, but they didn't get back to me, so I'm assuming I didn't pass. But hey, I can still take psych classes anyway. This class was my top choice for an elective since I really like learning more about myself and how I work, and not just learning about people in general. I just know me as myself, and I just want to know how I am and how I got to this place in life. Aside from making videos and crocheting, I've also volunteered for 2 events welcoming freshies before the sem start. One of them was a welcoming event orientation thing for computer science freshies. I took part of it when I was a freshie, so I volunteered for it every year since then. It's basically a 3-day event where different orgs of the computer science department talk about their org and give themed activities. The other event is more of a general event, kinda like an open forum for freshies to ask for advice and how life is in UP Diliman. We were sorted into breakout rooms by college, so we'd have a little bit more of a closer bond with them, but in your freshie year, most things you need to adjust to are about the same. So if we have some UP Diliman freshies watching this, you guys can comment some questions you have and I'll do my best to answer them. This is gonna be my 4th year in UP and I'm nowhere near graduating, so I already have a lot of experience and I even have knowledge on what face-to-face classes were like. But if you aren't from UP Diliman, but you're still a student or something, you can still ask questions, but I can't really say anything about your school's rules and culture. If I get enough questions, I'll even compile them into a full video for you guys. It's all just gonna be based off my personal experiences, so please take it with a grain of salt. It's possible that what works for me wouldn't work for you. I'm just here to give ideas on what might work. Going back to school life, I just thought of telling you guys how the subject lottery I mentioned earlier works. I call it that since you're not assured the classes you sign up for. Let me explain super briefly. There's a lot more nuance to this, but this is the simplest way I can explain it. So there's this point in time called pre-enlistment. It usually lasts for about a week. All the colleges release the classes they're offering for the semester with the prof schedules, class sizes, and sometimes restrictions on who can enter the class. Colleges also have the option to conceal the prof's name if they want to. So during pre-enlistment, you can go onto the website and then you have a week to select 20 subjects you want to take to have in your list. When you search for each subject, you can see a set of 3 numbers on the bottom of each class. How many people already signed up for the class, meaning that they're already on the class list and can't be removed unless they themselves back out, the maximum number of students for the class, and the demand, or how many students have that class in their pre-enlistment list. For certain subjects, demand can reach up to 400 people. At the end of the week, you have what's called a batch run. That's when the system does the lottery. It selects randomly who gets into the class until the class runs out of slots or people who want to take the class. Then there's different levels of priority depending on what you do basically. There's those who are graduating and freshies, they also get priority. And priority also comes as a perk to different students like those who work on website maintenance or to varsity athletes. Then there's people like me with normal priority, so you just have to go and hope and pray you'll get classes. And surprisingly, I actually got enough classes to meet the minimum requirements and even got into an elective that's a major of another course. And getting slots for a major is difficult enough, but some of them have course restrictions that won't even allow you to sign up for them. So yeah, that's just some random stuff of what happened to me in the month, so let's get back to the spreads. Like the habit tracker from last month, I had an idea of how I wanted it to look, but no sketches of what I wanted to have, so I start by coloring in the title, the only full thing I sketched out on the page. Then I outlined that with the light green vintage pen. I prep the habit trackers by plotting them out on where I want them to be. The concept for this tracker is a bunch of potions on a shelf, then I just write the date on the preset days when I do the task. So it's really important to plan it and make sure the bottles are big enough to fit the calendars. I just sketch out the bottles I want after that. I went around and tried to do as many styles as I could. I got some references from other potion bottle designs I found online for a few bottles and fancy cloches, which are those dome things they cover food with. Then to keep the theme, I make a smaller cauldron on the bottom empty space. I wasn't gonna write any text on it, so I just colored it in really quick. Then I make the shelves that hold the potions. They're super simple brown boxes. The bottles that are supposed to be glass, I outlined with a light blue pen. Then for the bottles with more solid parts, I fill those in with markers. A main feature of the spread is the candle near the middle, which is the only fully colored thing on the shelf. To prepare for the habit tracking, I go over the sketch days of the week with a black pen and color the other parts of the bottles. To give the shelf some variety and to avoid the candle looking like a mistake, I do the same liquid inside the bottle drawing that I did for all the potion bottles in the weeklies to 2 bottles on the shelf. I didn't want the spread looking too busy when I colored everything in, especially since I'll be adding numbers on the inside of the bottles. The last part was to write the habit being tracked under the bottle like a little shelf label thing. for the exercise and sleep tracker, I think some of you guys might be tired with this part already since it's the same every time just with different colors and border designs. But it's just a spread where I can just use highlighters to track how long I've been sleeping and how much I've exercised. The labels on the chart are blue and purple while the box around them is green. I did move the box down compared to previous spreads. I didn't like how there was almost just enough space to fit something but not enough to do something with it. So I just moved the box down to give more room for the titles, which matter more anyway. I rushed making the title for these, basing the font of the title that I used for the spread, but making it way thinner since I didn't have the space for the full font. To pull some more connections between the spreads, I take the templates I had for the weeklies and use them to decorate this spread. I traced them onto the page and started coloring them in. Of course, we have the candle on the bottom. Since this was the spread where the bottles would be in different angles to add variety and to make them fit onto the page, I tried to make the liquid in them fit the bottle orientation. Then I traced around the bottles themselves with black like the ones in the weeklies. Lastly, I just went around and added the yellow magical sparkles to everything. Now let's jump into the wallpaper of the month. As I've mentioned around the start of this video, I wanted to reserve the room theme to the wallpaper. I had a bunch of reference photos that I love, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to execute something that good. I wanted it to be a close-up corner shot with some shelves, a cauldron, and a window. I wanted to add that gray-brown to kind of be the wood, but also a wall. I start with the window, which I tried to make into radial gradients, with the yellow being the moon, which fades into a darker space on the bottom. Using the tools in Illustrator, it's pretty easy to make the cauldron shape, especially making the thing symmetrical. Since I made my two cauldrons in the spread purple and blue, this one is green with a glow effect to add some extraness. I make the inset bookshelves by adding a dark color, then putting strips of the wall color on top. Then I make the shelf by the window so that it doesn't look super flat. To fill the shelves, I make template potions like I did earlier to just copy-paste into the inset shelves. I do the same thing with random rectangles to make them into sets of books. If you have a really close look at them, they kind of remind me of the Monsters Inc. credits since it's a bunch of rectangles in irregular rectangle-ish shapes and bright colors. To add the liquid in the bottles, I change all the bottles to a translucent white and make the liquids on top of them using the pen tool. I actually had to manually make the liquids and decide the colors since I didn't want all of them to be the same level of liquid. If you look at the shelves, there's two bright pink potions in tall containers. There's supposed to be a reference to Yzma's potions from the Emperor's New Groove, just a bigger size. I wanted to put the labels that she has on them to really hammer home the reference, but then it would look weird that only two potions have the labels and I'd have to add labels on all of them, but I didn't have time, so I decided against it. I add extra shelves to the other side, but I don't really place anything there since it's gonna take a lot more time. Then I take the same glow effect and put those on all the bottles with their respective color. The next one is a lantern looking thing with ornate lines to make it look kinda old, then I add a circle of light around it. I felt like the window was so empty, so I contemplated adding curtains, but it didn't seem like a good fit. So I thought that having one of those spindly trees would look cool outside the window. It was really hard to make a tree that looked okay, and after all my fiddling, it just looked like a hand. The month label was supposed to be on the cauldron like the cover, but I thought it would look better as part of the smoke on the potion since I couldn't do the same effect in my spreads. So I did what I could do and make it wavy, but I kept that black line to keep it visible. Then the rest of the month would be on the cauldron. So here is the final wallpaper and spreads. I hope you guys like my spreads for the month. This is really one of my most staple aesthetics and something I really like exploring in a lot of things that I have. I just want to reiterate that if you guys have any questions, want not professional advice from someone who's supposed to be graduating this year, if you guys also have suggestions for monthly themes you'd want to see, leave them in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this from me, then hit the subscribe button and the bell to know when a new video's out. I try to upload every week, Monday nights at 8. I guess that's all for this video. Bye guys!